program. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uptrushin. I'm Saad in southeast London, and with me as usual is Gregory. Gregory, how are you? And how is the weather where you are?
One is fine. It is cold, cold, cold.
Okay. I am here. It's cold as well, but warmer than last week in London. Um, in fact, we had sunshine and blue skies earlier in the day. Now it's of course dark, but that was nice. Break different. It was freezing last week, I can say. So that's a shift from last time, um, which is welcome. So, dear listeners, this show, as I say, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a topic for discussion. The topic tonight is, by what principles should we live by? By what principles should we live by? You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. And if you scroll down, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we are discussing tonight is by what principles should we live by? By what principles should we live by? You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. There, if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. You can type in any questions or comments there. Gregory, you know, I always like to look up the meaning of the topic, the words of the the words that we have in our topic, the meaning of those words in the dictionary. And I've been was thinking, do I really need to go through every word, or should I just pick a few words, which are the key word, you can say? Now, yeah, I think I will pick keywords, just a couple of keywords, rather than go through every word, because they're quite simple. So again, the topic tonight, listeners, is by what principles should we live by? And I think the first keyword really is principles. And that's the topic, in fact, what we're discussing. So principles. So Gregory, I've got two meanings given there for the word principle or principles. It's the first one, a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior, or for a chain of reasoning. I'll repeat that. So this is the meaning of principle. It is a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior, or for a chain of reasoning. Gregory, how good is this definition for our discussion?
Well, thanks for expressing the dictionary meaning, which, when subjected to the strict form of language expression, one will find that it's a pointer. However, it is more of a lifeless pointer. Lifeless because it's referring to systems of belief. As you may well know, the systems of beliefs are as many as the people here on earth. So it's not precise enough, although it gives us some very partial um, meaning as a reference, but it still doesn't give us that which one can hold. However, he talks about fundamental truth. At the same time, he did not express what truth is.
Thank you. And there was one other point in there in the definition. It says, I know it talked about, you mentioned about belief, but it also says behavior. So a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system. You could say, if I ignore the word belief, it says or behavior, or uh, for a chain of reasoning. So I mean, we are talking about principles for living. That's what we are talking about. So it can be a belief. We know that people have beliefs. You've said that many beliefs, as many as people are there. Then there's this way of behavior or principles for behavior, like you could say a moral code. I wasn't going to go there just yet, but we could say a moral code, which may come from a belief, but it may be from, for example, again, I wasn't going to talk about this just yet, but they are martial arts, and they have, you can say, a code of behavior, which may not be based on belief necessarily. It's just something that their life experience has given. So, I mean, this is really a big topic tonight. So,
See, the problem with that's the way that principle has been expressed. So many things have been compressed into one. And with such compression, the question then asks, where do you start from? Because it talks of behavior. One can also refer to activities. Um, we are also trying to look at it from the viewpoint of a human personality. But with the word principle, there are the principles that have been put in place in an office that people should follow. So it's so trying to follow the dictionary meaning makes it very complex.
okay. We will, of course, our show is quite a long 2 hour show, so we can have time to discuss this further. But this is just setting out, you can say, as we always say, there's a framework we are looking at. And at the moment, we haven't mentioned this framework yet, but we're just exploring these meanings here so far, and I don't want to jump it yet because I already feel like I'm running far. Like before I've started, I'm already running 100 yards ahead, and I don't want to do that. I want to go step by step so that we do, you know, it's good in a way to see all these different points, and uh, and then we have to focus on some points. We cannot go in every single point, of course. We'll try our best to look at them. So, okay, what I'll say, Gregory, we will not go too much further now in the meaning of the word principle. Let it just develop as we go. I think that's the best now for time being. Um, okay, now the principle, the topic again, just to remind everybody, by what principles should we live by? So we just looked at that word principles. Um, can I ask, do you want to say something about the definition for principle that?
But you
Oh,
yourself have already answered it.
yes. Actually, sorry, I've just realized there was a second meaning in the dictionary which I've completely not mentioned yet, and it is quite different from what we've already spoken. So, and I'm just thinking, let me say it, Gregory. Let's just say it. Let's go through it, you know, and then either we dismiss it or we pursue it, it's okay. But we know what the definition is there in the dictionary, and we can just, say what is the discussion that we are going to have tonight. So the second meaning of the word principles in dictionary. It says a general scientific theorem or law that has numerous special applications across a wide field. Wow. Let me repeat that. A general scientific theorem or law that has numerous special applications across a wide field. Anything to say on that one there, Gregory?
It's also a pointer,
Right.
although a pointer in which does not is not referring to human personalities, which is not what we are discussing.
Hmm. What came to me, Gregory? There's like something universal principles. I think that's what we are trying to um, point to, and rather than specific to one, in quotes, teaching or religion or system, because there can be more than one. As you said, there are as many beliefs as there are human beings. So that one. So is that what we are referring to, Gregory, when we talk about principles? Something universal.
Again, the word universal or the word natural, these are qualifiers. But I kept stressing, without even thinking about it, you yourself provided an answer,
Mm,
which was basically, instead of using the word principle, you use the expression framework.
right. Okay. So framework. Okay. So yes, that sounds like a system. I'm trying to think now. Um, okay. So framework is a system, I think, Gregory, if I'm thinking in the right way there. Um,
If one mentioned the frameworks of the laws of creation, um, I mean, there are in creation or in nature, there are the inanimate objects, and then there are the animate objects. There are objects in nature which do not have a free will, and there are others that have a free will. So you'll find that the what is being referring to is the word the expression principle is basically the natural framework that sort of helps to ensure continuity or helps to ensure harmony amongst all that exists within nature.
that's good. Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory, because now the picture is becoming clearer. So we have, like you say, the framework, which is this world that we exist in. It is not only us humans existing here, there's animals and, let's say, other beings also. Then you mentioned this word objects, animate and inanimate objects. So the animate, you can say, are living, and the inanimate are the non-living, you know, which of course we are familiar with on this earth. There's, like you can say, table or chairs is not is inanimate, and then us humans, animals, and so on are the animate. So okay, and then we are talking about a framework um, in which all this operates. Um, okay, we all operate, and and the idea is how should we live? This is us human beings, that is. How should we live in this framework or this world? Um, okay. Now, Gregory, there's again so many questions coming in my mind right now. Um, the first thing you wonder, okay, what is the purpose of this world even? Um, we are saying we are living. We human beings are living. Other beings are also living. And then you're wondering, okay, and we want to live in harmony. That's what we said, um, which means we should know about the other things that exist with us. That's the implied, impression there, that we should know about this world. And then you say, okay, then the question comes, what is our purpose? What is the purpose of the world that we live in? Um, and that's before we have said, well, how we're supposed to live in this world. So Gregory, let's go to the we can't avoid these questions. So let's go a little bit step by step. So Gregory, we are living in this world. So the question arises, and we are existing, and others are also existing. So what's our purpose then, Gregory? Um, are we meant to do something in this world, Gregory? That like work with others? I know our famous saying, we say all for one and one for all. So, um, yeah, can you give us a picture of what is this purpose of this world that we live in?
Again, thanks for this particular question. The challenge many have is a very common one. It is common to many because the individual doesn't seem to be able to intuitively elucidate what it is here for. That means the individual hasn't asked himself, what am I doing here? Only when such questions strike the individual will the personality be forced, one way or the other, to start reflecting. So that's what seemed to be no direction. Or then suddenly you have a direction coming up. So each personality must ask themselves, what am I doing here? What have I come to do here? Such question will now ask the question, what is I? Then it will be that I, is it the physical body that one has that is the I, or a spark that activates the body which we see? If it is the physical body, if the I is equated to the physical body of flesh and blood that we see, then there is no purpose. That will also point to no purpose of nature and of the continuity. Everything leads to no purpose. That only happens when the framework which the individual is using has been tied up. That means has been so cramped and limited. Whereas with a more intuitive reflection of what I is, then it becomes very clear that the I transcends the physical body of flesh and blood, which the individual is used to. Because when one considers the flesh and blood, this is what is perceptible using the five senses. So if one has to move beyond the capacity of the five senses, which one use in perceptions here, then it means there must be something behind it. There must be something behind the five senses that animates the five senses. Only in such a manner would one now come to see that there is more to it that meets the eye. The eye being basically one of the organs of perception. In that case, one may start considering when one goes to bed and dreams and finds that although it's in one place, in one's dream, one is able to travel to different places. And step by step, the individual is able to convince itself that there is more to it than the five senses. There must be that which makes use of the physical body of flesh and blood. With that, a path is then opened through which further investigations can continue. That path is the path of one's intuition. So, unless one is able to open up one's intuition, whatever logic is placed or whatever logic is presented, many a person may dismiss it and consider only that which is perceptible to them using the five senses. Whereas what we are stressing here is go beyond that. That is useful, but if you try to stretch it further, it breaks. Therefore, the need is there to go beyond the logic which is presented by, in quotes, the intellect. That means the logic presented by the limitation which the frontal brain is capable of. Then we will have another path forward through which we have a gut feeling. And then when reflected upon, it becomes a bit clearer that that which we refer to as a gut feeling is more of an intuitive sensing. A picture is then presented, which picture is not bound up to our brain because it's a picture without words. Only in such a step-by-step manner, in quiet reflection and contemplation, can one then move forward from the cramped frontal brain capability of reflection, of thinking. So once the individual becomes clear that the inner core is a spark which predates the physical body it is now using, then the question becomes, where was it? So in a step-by-step manner, one now breaks down the barrier which has always caused the confusion. Then, once that bridge has been crossed, the way opens up. The way opens up because there is now a recognition. Now having perceived the object around one, also the perception of our physical body, which is an object, a recognition comes that there is something further which lies behind it that activates the physical body. It is that which is of the spirit. That is what one is referring to in this particular instance.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for, how can I say, highlighting and bringing out uh, the nature of the human being, which may be, let's say, hidden in our understanding. You mentioned the five senses, the earthly senses, which we are all familiar with, uh, and that is what we use for our physical activities and life on this earth. However, that is not what you are referring to as the real, how can I say, life of the human being. Um, this is called the spiritual discussion program. So there's this word spirit, which, let's say, we may use it, but not really understand it. And that's the real one, you can say, that is life or living inside the human body, on the earth body that we are living on this earth. That's the one that makes us alive. Yes, we have a heart, we have the blood running in our body, and they say, oh, you're alive because your heart is pumping or the blood is running in your body. But again, all that is only physical. That is not the one that is living. Like we use this word living. It's the spirit that is living. So we mentioned the five senses, which are physical, but it's the body is that is, let's say, that is being animated by this spirit. That's what we can call the living being. That's what is really driving us in our earth life and even the beyond, actually. And so, Greg, you pointed out this intuition, which is operating. Well, it's an ability of the spirit, you can say, or the voice of the spirit. But again, how much do we know about that? That's really, this is where, let's say, this knowledge of the Grail message really shows what life actually is about, So our understanding, it has to grow from our regular thinking and so on, and come to realize that there's this spirit and intuition that comes with the spirit. And that is really the one that works on a much higher level than the five earthly senses. It is able to perceive and much higher level, as I said, than the earthly senses. So we're going to keep looking at this further. This topic is really enormous. I'm sure we could do a 5 or 6 hour show on it because I cannot see an end to what we want to talk about. However, we only have 2 hours, so we'll have to cover what we can in that period. So I just want to let the listeners know this is Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is, by what principles should we live by? By what principles should we live by? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp again. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on that homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. As I've mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number one there, space live stream. That is for our live show. You can listen to a recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is by what principles should we live by? And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows as well on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. That's the number one again. Now, Gregory, we've opened right at this beginning of this show, you could say, we talked about the framework, which is the world that we're living in. We talked about us human beings being the animate beings, living amongst other beings. We've talked about our five senses, the earthly senses, living on this earth, but we also have another sense or ability, I should say. As a human being, we are also a human spirit, which people may not be clear about it, but it's not material. It's a non-material living being is the best way simplest way I can say it. And this living being, the spirit, also has an ability which is called the intuition, which is a perception. So, and it works on a higher level than our five earthly senses. So that's the, let's say, little bit of foundation that we have opened up with. And then we are talking about by what principles should we live by. So now, Gregory, I want to go back, as we mentioned earlier, there are many beliefs, even as many beliefs as there are human beings. And people follow these beliefs, and you could say they are the principles that people are following. And you have brought something, let's say, another angle, which is the spirit and its intuition. So which is like another principle that people can use and apply and live by. So this is, I don't know if this is conflicting or contrast, we can contrast it. So Gregory, these beliefs, let's call them spiritual or religious beliefs that come, that people follow, is there any good, how can I say good? Is there any use for them? Because people have followed it. There are principles. We said there are principles. People are following this system of beliefs, let's say. And I think the aim is to become a good human being, or to serve, to be, let's say, a good human being, a better human being. Is that not a good thing, these beliefs, these spiritual beliefs, Gregory?
These are questions which keep thundering towards many. One key thing which has been left out is the framework. Good human being in which framework? If being a good human being is in accordance with the framework of the laws of nature, of the laws of creation, then that will be that the human personality has come to a recognition of one for all and all for one, simply because it has the same goal, just like any other human personality on earth. It also means that gradually the individual is waking up from its initial state, waking up in accordance to the laws of nature or the laws of creation, only means the initial states of cognition. Recognition were made possible due to the identification using the five senses. Now it has woken up from that state of cognition to a state of recognition. For only that which is alive is capable of that, of recognition in the sense that the human brain is able to perceive and recognize those things which are of the same nature, which is the world of matter, or the world of matter which is dense, as we are able to perceive it. That is recognition in one sense. The other level is recognition in the spiritual sense. That means it has awoken to a state of spiritual recognition. That recognition only came about because in spirit, using intuition as the mode of communication between itself and others, it is able to weigh, it is able to examine. Recognition only comes through weighing of events and through the examination of events, such as to build within the individual structures which are durable, structures within which help to propel the individual to improve its perception continuously. After all, the individual, in its reflection and contemplation, would before long come to the conclusion that it started from a point, just as a child starts from a point, so also the individual human personality, which is of spirit. And in the case of examination, it only means these things are done in reciprocity via one's intuition. It also means that the individual is able to recognize that which is referred to as the attraction of homogeneous species. When it comes to that state, and that is alive deep within it, many questions will vanish because it becomes very clear to it. In the case of Wayne, that is only possible when one event, when one happening, when one manifestation is denser than the other one. This can only be perceived through, or this can only be perceived by the inner core of man, which is of spirit. So to weigh and to examine, have, when looked at very clearly, have the framework of the laws of creation. These laws of creation are the same as the laws of motion. For creation or nature, and indeed the individual, is subject to continuous motion. Motion when it is born using the physical body as it knows it. Motion when it spends its time here on earth, in which the physical body has to undergo motion also. Motion when it severs itself from the physical body in order to make further progress, to rise up or to sink down. This motion is continuous. Therefore, since it is in perpetual motion, the laws of motion, which are equivalent to the laws of creation, makes it possible for that individual who strives with all its strength to recognize these laws and to live by these laws, subsequently will be born back home to become a self-conscious human personality. Whereas the one who does not strive after that will not be able to get back home as self-conscious, but will return to its primeval state from which it started. That primeval state from which it started, for a listener, they are directed to the walk in the light of truth, the Grail Message. Only from that perspective of continuous motion, can the individual examine this work.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this picture that you have painted about how us human beings, you could say, operate in this world, which is creation, and how the laws of creation or nature sort of direct through this, you talked about law of motion, and you could say that is really ruling this world that we live in, the law of motion, and so we can move around. Of course, we know physically how we move around with our physical body, but not only does it work there, it works also, after our death into the beyond. Uh, there's laws are working there as well, the law of motion, and we are being directed, or if I can say, governed by this law. How we move from A to B, even there. But and Gregory, what you said there, it sounds like we have a choice how to move around. Of course, on the earth, we know that. In one sense, yes, because we can't go faster than the physical world allows. That's we can't just wish to be somewhere and then just appear in that world. We have the limitation of the physical world to move around, and then this one, when we pass on, let's call it into the beyond, uh, that's another world, and there also we can move around, but it's a bit different there. In the sense, well, the laws are the same, the natural laws which apply on this earth, the physical world, they also apply in this world of the beyond. But how can I say, move around, as I was pointing to, is a little bit different. But as Gregory said, rather than go into detail about everything, the best thing is to pick up the Grail message and go into the, let's say, more detailed explanations there. Um, now, I'm thinking, okay, I just received a question or a point. I just want to check that before I continue talking. What the person is saying. Okay, the person is commenting about what I just said. He's saying, the listener saying, we move through our thoughts in the beyond. So, Gregory, can we talk about that a bit? I don't know if you're diverting too much, because we said by what principles should we live by, and initially I was thinking of the earthly world, but then we're talking also about the beyond. And this person has said we move around with our thoughts in the beyond. It's becoming a very big topic now. So, Gregory, do you want to say something on that a little bit?
Generally, when thoughts are mentioned, those thoughts are tied to the frontal brain. So it means that thoughts are tied to the world of matter in their density. The personality that has severed itself from the physical body and now, in quotes, in the beyond, uses its intuitions because the physical body is no more available to it, although it has other bodies which covers the spirit, which the spirit animates. But one may not say that the personality uses thoughts which are tied to the density of the earthly environment, which are consistent with the earthly environment. The departed human personality uses its intuition for further investigation, for further activities.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I'm just um, wanting to, let's say, return back to the earthly life for the time being. We're not going to ignore the other life, since we are more familiar with that. That's why I'm trying to focus on that in the moment. Now, Gregory, just going back to these teachings, spiritual teachings or religious teachings, people will because when I talk thinking about principles, I'm thinking of a code, a moral code, or uh, law, or guidance. I don't know what words we can use, hundreds of words to go there. And people would have heard of the, let's say, from the Bible about the Ten Commandments, which are from God. And that's what, of course, it says that Ten Commandments of God. And now I'm wondering, Gregory, you have been talking about the intuition and using the intuition. So these guidances, like the Ten Commandments, for example, um, are they like, how can I say, just a little advice, um, you know, and yeah, that, let's say, like children, you have to be told, do this, don't do that, otherwise you'll go wrong, or you won't know what you're doing. And so, but when we are adult, um, uh, is there some moral code, like, as I said, these Ten Commandments, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. Um, in fact, the first one is there's only one God, or uh, thou shalt, I've forgotten exactly of the first commandment. If I just apologize about that. Uh, you know, I shall have the Lord thy God, only one. So yes, I'm saying one, but it's like it's only one God. So just, I don't want to go specifically on all the commandments, Gregory, but I'm just thinking of the purpose of them. Is there, uh, what can we say about what are these guidances? Is there, uh, are they only needed, let's say, the for early human beings? Because remember, time has moved on. We are living in 2025 now. And these Ten Commandments came down exactly when, I can't remember that, maybe 5,000 years ago, or so. So please, Gregory, can you help us with this, maybe the story of the human beings in their guidance?
Well, thanks. One of the biggest challenges the individual has is to accept many things without weighing it, without examining it with its intuition. The Ten Commandments, in quotes, are said to have been given by the Almighty. The question is that true? Has any individual who weighs and examines with its intuition and who has subsequently or consequently come to a conclusion intuitively and is sure, no doubt, such a personality will hold on to it and will live by that which it has through its examination and weighing, the conviction which have arisen, it will hold on to that because they become the structures. Many who refer to the Ten Commandments have at best only read it, at best talked about it. But those commandments or advice are not alive deep within them. It means everything is based on superficiality. It's only a mouth service. The name of the Lord Almighty in their lips. And because they themselves never examined it spiritually, they lack the necessary knowledge to move forward. For if they themselves have examined and weighed it and found it to have come from a source, which source is beyond the earthly conception of time and space, and they live by it, then one miracle and or another will keep opening up. Then they will not ask the question, how should we live? Or what principle should we live by? Because they already have it. Therefore, when the Ten Commandments are mentioned, those who ask for further elucidation have really not experienced it. They have personal wishes and they wish to hold on to it. The question still remains, what should we do? It is surprising that many don't reflect, just as they themselves have doubts and are striving for further enlightenment, so also are others. Just as they are confused, so also are many others. And therefore, in accordance with the laws of creation, which they themselves cannot evade, those of similar or equivalent confusion, they come together only when, in their further examination, if they ever get into it, only when they now have arrived at a conclusion, which conclusion is based on real motion deep within, only then will they have formed a bridge towards the source through which power streams to them, just like others. Then, in all naturalness, that expression, one for all and all for one, will become something which is alive. They would not ask for that question. How we live by the principles which we follow, which principle has already been expressed, even with the words of Christ, for to love thy neighbor as thyself. That becomes second nature or first nature. Therefore, the words are helpful, but understanding the words aright are much better, for it grants the individual the possibility of moving away from belief and moving a step further to conviction, which conviction can only be attained through inflexible weighing and inflexible examinations, all this in accordance with the laws of motion, which are also the laws of creation, which are also the divine laws, through which the individual is granted the opportunity to make progress, to come to better, to come to finer recognition. There's no other.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and explanation. Um, Uh, we're going to carry on discussing this further in a moment. I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is by what principles should we live by? By what principles should we live by? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. If you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. And you can type in any questions or comments there. As I've mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again that's the number 1 there, space live stream. That is for our live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is by what principles should we live by? You can of course listen to a recording of our previous shows as well, again on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, what I've been getting from what you've been saying, this life we human beings are living, it's like we know it's a journey, but the journey, let's say we may have been thinking, let's say earthly life is only, let's say, a very small part of our journey, in the sense of what is the real big journey that we are part of. However, and we do focus on this earthly one a lot, but that's really not what it's about. And what I mean by that, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that earthly life is not important. No, it is important, but it's only part of our life. But when we die, we have earthly death, we still are continuing to live in the beyond. So our journey continues there. And how much do we know about that? Let's say, yes, there may be some belief, as we said, or whatever people think about it, but that's not really real until we get there. So, and yet we need to be aware, what we've been talking so far, yes, we have these abilities, we have our 5 senses, we have this intuition, and we have to use these abilities uh, not just the earthly one, but also the spiritual one, to, you could say, discover our path, and to live our path, live our journey. So this is really quite important. Um, that's what we've been pointing to here. Um, and you can see, Gregory, how you've been talking. We're not talking about a belief, this belief or that belief. It's all about weighing and examining yourself every single step. What you come across in your experiences in your life, you examine it, you weigh it, whatever the experience happens to be, which means you become alive, not acting, let me say, like a robot, or just following what somebody else's, belief or what we have been taught. That's the difference of level that we are required to live. We are saying what principles we should live by. It becoming alive, being conscious. Definitely very different to how we have been living. You know, um, so this is really something, a big step. You can say that most of us, I would say, have not really considered, or even aware. Now, Gregory, in this world, we are living on this earth with lots of, let's say, opposing and differing views on life, on politics, economics, whatever. Uh, and this life is, the earth life is also important. And then we will get into situations with people, let's say, we disagree with, and others we agree with, and we have to find a way to live, you could say, live in peace, or um, with happiness, despite the challenges that we are facing. Some are very serious things. People are, we hear daily in the news, for example, this, I know it's, I don't want to pick on one thing too much, because people say we are focusing on one side, one country and not another. So obviously people would have heard of the Los Angeles wildfires, even the human arson involved in it. Uh, um, and that is causing some devastation, serious devastation. That's only one example. I don't want to pick on that, because, as I say, in the last few weeks, easily there have been so many events, even human disasters with planes crashing and so on. And all these things make you wonder, oh, especially if you are the one suffering it, why is this happening to me, or why is it happening? You know, and as I said, in this world today, there's very much a lot of division with political views, and people are trying to, how can I say, have their own agenda. And we, who are seeing that, now need to discern, is this true, or is it false, or what to do in these situations? You know, so Gregory, that's why I chose this topic. What principle should we live by? And I'm thinking, okay, Gregory, for example, let's say somebody's, let's say, suffering, or they have something in their life, they don't know how to move forward in a particular situation. How do they go forward there, Gregory? Should they put out a prayer, or should they be in silence and maybe go into I don't know, a church, or go in nature? How should one start, Gregory, when you are having, let's say, some difficult situation to deal with?
Very simply, that is not likely to be the first time the individual had such a challenge, then the individual must therefore reflect, how did it got how did it get out from the previous challenges it had without causing confusion in other places? Many a situation depends on how that particular individual is able to open up. Some, in quotes, open up through music, some in silence, some go to, say, a temple or a church or a mosque to open up themselves. If indeed they are opened, then they would discover immediately. Because at that time when they have challenges, which challenge touches them deep within, that is when the need is greatest. And when the need is greatest, the power that maintains, that streams through creation, maintains creation, is nearest to the individual. It only needs to open up aright to be able to perceive of this power and use it such that it will uplift it, not for vengeance. So if the question comes up again, how should one move forward in the midst of challenges? When many have not seen something which is threatening, when they cannot perceive the challenge in such gigantic form, they sleep. But every moment is a challenge. Whether the returns, whether that which strikes the individual it's heavy or light, it is still a challenge. It is how the individual responds to these challenges. For when things are smooth, that is when the individual should put itself together to understand aright that particular scenario. It should exert itself to perceive aright the grace, the blessings, all the laws through which it itself came into existence. When things are turbulent, it should even open up the more, such that whether it is smooth or rough, as long as it in motion, in continuous motion for improvement on its states of perception, once it sets its mind, its intuition along such path, then its awakeness is perpetual. It is that perpetual awakeness to weigh and examine aright. That is what the individual needs to do. So, no matter the scenario, must be awake to weigh and to examine, not only intellectually in accordance with its earthly thoughts, but also spiritually. Only then will it say it is alive. Else, it is not alive. Even when seen externally, it is in quotes doing well.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. Um, on this earth, we have a variety of human beings, you can say. Uh, um, um, as I said, that people have their own agenda. We see that, even powerful people are, with the world social media platforms that we have now, are able to promote their ways and so on. And it can be, even call it fake news and so on. So much is out there in this world that we live today. Um, and we say all for one and one for all, but then when you see the different variety of people, you wonder, can I work with such people? Or is it only the ones I can trust? I work with them. And then there's something called the real world. When you go to work, you can't choose your colleague. They're already there, even your boss, and you have to work with them. Otherwise, you could quit, and in the next place you go, there'll be another scenario there, not, just different characters, but maybe some not too dissimilar to your last scenario. So it's like we have to live in this real world, whatever the people are around us, even your family. You cannot, you have a brother or sister or father, mother, whoever. They're all of different, let's say, character, uh, and you can't just walk away. Well, you can, in theory, you can walk away from things, but uh, you're walking only, as I say, from one place, and then you go to another one. So you're not. You might escape one character, but another character can come, which might give you some other headache. So you can't really escape the world, even if you wish to, let's say, live in a good way, if I use that word, and you're finding these um, troubles. Uh, and why am I saying all these things? Because people are looking for happiness, they're looking for peace, they're looking for love. And let's say the real world out there seems to be um, not like that. Um, so, Gregory, is it to a way to have peace? Is it internally? Because outwardly, you know, even your friend, you can have a disagreement or disappointments. You might have some expectation, and and they might let you down, whatever you think they're supposed to do. Um, so, how do we have this peace, happiness, and love? Is it only internally, Gregory? Because the outer world can be, like you said, challenges are there. So, is this happiness only on an internal level, if I use the word internal, or spiritual? I don't know how to describe that.
One may stress that one needs to have a spiritual awakeness. That means one is, in this case, stressing vigilance. One is stressing alertness. For the personality who is spiritually vigilant, who is spiritually alert, and translate it intellectually. That means in accordance with the densification here in the world of matter, and particularly here on earth. It is awake. It's able to transmit this intuitive perceiving to the frontal brain again and again. And in that case, is able to set up certain structures that will help it to enhance its vigilance, to enhance its alertness. With that, many things which would have caused it pain and terrible suffering are averted. In that particular scenario, peace and happiness will be the reward that will benefit him because he or she is awake. He or she is vigilant. He or she is alert, not only intellectually, but also in spirit. Then it will find that in order to be able to live aright, the need will therefore arise to cooperate with others who also seek peace and seek happiness and joyfulness. For such group of people, or for such category of people, in all naturalness, they will come together and form a union. That's union where one is for all and all is for one, such that their vigilance, spiritual vigilance, their alertness, spiritual alertness, also contributes to the overall vigilance even of the earthly frontal brain. In that scenario, it needs have no fear because it has mastered how to work with others. That means it is not going it alone. But it requires a lot of discipline. Even if at the initial stages, there are many challenging events, which event serves to polish the individual so as not to fall into those mistakes which others have made in the past. Whatever it is, as long as the goal is such that the individual seeks true peace, which is filled with a lot of activities, which is also a representation of earthly vigilance, earthly alertness, spiritual vigilance, and spiritual alertness. Then the individual builds up confidence within itself. With the confidence, knowing that it is one for all and all for one, then and only then can it go forward very courageously. It is those who follow that path that are pleasing to the Lord Almighty, that granted them the opportunity to develop themselves.
Thanks again, Gregory, for this answer. There's more again I want to ask you, but before I do that, I want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Blessed Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin, and in the light of truth, I should say, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is, by what principles should we live by? By what principles should we live by? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And then there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I've already said, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one again, space live stream. That is to listen to our live show, which we broadcast on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to a recording of this show the next day. Just go again to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is, by what principles should we live by? And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows again also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM /Bless Radio 1. That's the number one again. Now, Gregory, I've mentioned already this world that we live in, where people are out with, obviously, some of them want to have good, they have good, in quotes, agenda. Others might have a dark, evil agenda. And we can't avoid them because we're living here on the same planet. And somehow we may come across them in whatever guise or place that happens. And maybe when you experience the hard and difficult things or deception or other such, let's say, evil things that happen, you might start losing hope or thinking, oh, why is this happening to me? And we've talked about praying and so on already. But I was thinking, with our attitude, when you do have a difficult or, let's say, hard experience with somebody, and then you're thinking, okay, it might happen again, with another person, or can I trust people, because, especially I'm sure in relationships, the partners, they are close, and then things happen, they break down, and then now the question of trust comes in. Can it happen with another person? And when you first meet the person, you don't know what's going to happen. Even you don't know the future anyway. Something can happen, even with a good person, you can say. But so my question is, Gregory, about the attitude for us, how we should adopt. Should we be skeptical? Should we be trusting? See good in people? Because you said being vigilant. You mentioned that. vigilant, because there can be danger, uh, there can be temptation, there can be even goodness. Some people want to help or make you move forward. So, Gregory, what's the attitude we should be adopting with, let's say, if you've had, it can be good or bad experience, because you said be vigilant. Should we be skeptical? Should we be trusting?
By vigilance, there are different aspects or different gradations. The discussion had mentioned spiritual vigilance, spiritual alertness, also earthly vigilance, earthly alertness. The discussion also mentioned that at the initial stage or the initial stages, there could be unpleasant reactions because it could be only the first time it is exerting itself to perceive a right. And being the first time is doing it more than usual. Therefore, it feels the pressure, and that pressure becomes unpleasant, which means the person may become too sensitive, filled with worries, and start doubting other people. When questions such as yours are brought up, the counter question will be, where are those people who say they wish to be rich in earthly goods, earthly estimations, who, when they tried it the first time, in quotes, to make money, they failed woefully? Where are those who said because they have failed woefully, they won't try it again? None. For some, it is only the beginning. They will keep trying again. You have to try and try. But learn the lessons which have accrued from falling. Learn the lessons not only intellectually, frontal brain, but learn the lessons. Let it touch the inner core such that it becomes a spiritual experience. Then you are one step better than you were in the past. And before long, depending on how quickly one is able to learn, one is now able to adjust. If, however, the personality allows fear to overcome it, it is unable to move forward as such because fear tends to paralyze the vibrant activity of the individual. Whereas what is needed is a quick turnaround by learning the lessons spiritually and making use of it. Very sadly, for many, the first attempts where challenges present themselves, it is such that they give up. The same thing with the individual who is unwell in health. You do try the first time, you try the second time, you do not give up. So that continuous self-exertion must go on. Else, the efforts one had made in the past will come to nothing. But the lessons must be learned. The lesson must have a strong impression on the inner man. For it is these lessons that it may use here whilst on earth or hereafter when it has departed. So some of the lessons which we learn, the use of it may not even be for this place alone, but could be when one has passed on and is granted the opportunity to look back. Only then will it come to thank the wisdom that has guided it from one point to the other until it's able to leave the flesh and then move on in spirit with giant strides.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this again picture you're showing to us. Another question I'm wondering about is there, let's say, famous people out there, or maybe you can call them heroes or such people, successful people, let's call them, and well known, and let's say people want to follow them, if I can say, or learn from them, and maybe so they might be reading articles, biography, autobiography, whatever, that this, of course, in modern times we are talking about. And I was wondering, Gregory, yeah, they call them like model, not model in the modeling in that way, but model, role model, I think is the word I want to say. So, Gregory, and then people start looking up to such people even. And I'm thinking, Gregory, is that a good way to learn or good something to adopt, to follow such people? Because let's say they're successful, or even this word popular, I don't know if that's the right word to use, because people who are successful become popular as well, and that's how they become well known. So is this some way, Gregory, for using that to develop yourself, or is it we're meant to do our own way, find our own way?
Many a time, some see another who has been making efforts and was able to overcome the challenges, in quotes, and became successful. But the question they never ask themselves, how did he or she do it? For it is the how. When the how is in accordance with the living laws of creation, where the individual exerted itself by weighing and examining and adapting itself and keep making changes, if that is how it was, the final target was arrived at, then that becomes a good model to follow. That does not mean one should follow it wholeheartedly, because the challenges of that particular individual, how he or she responded to these challenges, that was done in accordance with its own nature, not with your own nature. It may well be that if you face equivalent or similar challenges, because your own nature does not suit what he or she has gone through, you won't be able to follow. If subsequently one comes to find out that what many have termed success could be a form of cheating, then when you then jumped into it in order to emulate that person and you find you couldn't cheat, then you are disappointed. So every experience only counts when it is examined intuitively, weighed intuitively by the individual, and also when it is examined to some extent by the frontal brain and weighed by the frontal brain. Only then can it come to a conclusion as to separate that which is of benefit from that which is not of benefit. It is not good to blindly follow, in quotes, a model, which model the individual does not yet understand. He or she may keep weighing and asking questions with the firm volition for that which is of benefit to it and to others. Before long, in its openness, in its vigilance and alertness, a solution will be found, not as complex or complicated as it had imagined.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for that answer. Got another, could call it scenario or situation, where let's say at work, you just started this job, and you didn't realize let's say the boss or manager asked you to do something. Well, when you went for the job, you thought that's what you wanted, and when you were let's say when you got there, after some time you discovered, oh, these people are not how can I say, operating with integrity and I don't know, morality and so on. Let's say they're trying to even, let's say, do something illegal, but you are now there, and then you could discover that. Of course, you could say, okay, I don't agree with this, so I quit. But the situation could be a delicate situation. You can't just run out, so quickly. And so my question is about being pragmatic or practical in a scenario where you don't agree because people are doing quite something dodgy that you don't want to be part of. So as I say, you can't just walk away. Well, you can in theory. Everything is feasible in reality, in theory. But let's say the reality is that you see something and then you think, okay, I have to resign, but I can't resign like today. I have to take some time. So my question really, Gregory, is when there's this difficult, we said difficult situation, but here is something dealing with a pragmatic and practical issue of getting yourself away from trouble and without causing too much alarm, you see. So that's what, so Gregory, when that is happening, as I say, you didn't know it was going to be like this when you started. Yeah, how should one act, Gregory? Should one because let's say your inner sense is you don't feel comfortable there, and then at the same time you cannot walk straight away out of this scenario. So what do you do there, Gregory? Do you ask for help, from advice, and or reflect yourself to find a way out?
As with almost every case, every scenario, prior to the manifestation, in an earthly manner, one will find that the individual must have been touched one way or the other to become vigilant, to be alert. That vigilance and alertness calls for a lot of caution in moving forward, in being reflective. Subsequently, even before it manifests in a gross material way, that means on the earth, one will find that if that individual had been practicing it, his caution in vigilance and alertness, the degree that will strike it will become less and less and less, such that he's able to say one thing or the other without burdening itself. But no, what normally happens is that you are moving along, signs have been shown to you that will help to awaken you, and these things are ignored until we now have a manifestation that strikes you in the face. Then and only then does the individual now suddenly wake up and say, oh, yes, at least I know that I had this sensing, I had this feeling, this. But they will never tell you that they did not act in accordance to the sensing. So that is one part. Prior to the final manifestation, there are times these manifestations don't even come up again because you have matured beyond that particular level. In any case, one has to be perpetually alert and vigilant. Therefore, the question you yourself are asking, how should one respond to it? Very simply, be open deep within yourself. Don't hold pre-perceived notions which you yourself are unable to explain. Many a time, the challenge is we have our own wishes. And unless things happen the way we think it should happen, we now call it dodgy. However, if deep within we are always mobile, then gradually, not suddenly, then gradually we become awake that many a situation, before we get there to that point where it manifests, it would have dissolved, such that our responses will be symbolic. So it depends on the level of vigilance, the level of alertness, how we have been able to loosen the thread or to loosen the knots which we had tied in the past. If in our thoughts We are always busy, striving to become good, not only in thoughts and in intuition, but in our physical activities. Then the responses will be in accordance to the inner maturity that we ourselves have achieved so far to be in that state. So one may only say that there must be continuous vigilance, continuous alertness. That which many think about bosses or this or that, it is you yourself who haven't seen it from different directions. You yourself who haven't judged accordingly. For if indeed one had been awake, then that decision would have been made in such a way that there was no need to follow that path in order to experience it. So, whatever the situation, awake.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for that. Again, the answer there, and your, um, um, giving the suggestion there. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the topic on our discussion tonight was by what principles should we live by? And as usual, I like to read from you could say the beginning of the Grail Message, which is titled For Your Guidance. The bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present day confusion. The following word does not bring in religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this in the form of ready-made opinions of others only walks his path as if on crutches while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abrushin. dear listeners, if you wish to find more information on the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAG.
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Wishing you a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic for discussion. Good night.